A month after the 9/11 attacks, Britain and America began their assault on al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. While fighting rages in many parts of the country, the capital, Kabul, has been transformed by an influx of foreign soldiers, aid workers and money. But much of the city now exists as a separate world to the rest of the country. Heavily fortified walls protect Western troops and the new Afghan elite. But in this bubble, there is real fear as occupying forces begin to leave. From Kabul tonight, Inigo Gilmore has this special report on a city on edge.
When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno.
Welcome to Kabul, not the Afghanistan we all know of endless war, but the bubble of the Allied military headquarters in the capital.
Pledge, gas.
$450 billion has been spent over the past decade. Over 2,000 US and British soldiers have died, alongside tens of thousands of Afghans. Most fighting takes place outside the capital, but even here, freedom and fear live side by side. I'd come to Kabul to get a sense of how this last waltz might unfold.
It's kind of bittersweet. You know, we've been doing this for 10 years, and we've been chasing al-Qaeda. We're in this struggle against the Taliban.
That Kabul has changed, no one can dispute. In 2001, just getting a shave in a barber's shop was impossible. Today, a poster of teen pop phenomenon Justin Bieber adorns 16-year-old Omer's shop. Omer told me he had vague memories of the towers in New York, but he didn't really seem to know who bin Laden was.
Start over here.
The last thing I expected to find in Kabul was this. Inside the military headquarters, it's strictly country and western. Johnny Cash is on the speakers, and leading the quick step, Major Stephen Frank from Texas.
Stop and just change direction. It's easy. These guys got to do something to get their mind off what they're doing. You know, every day we're hearing about our buddies getting blown up somewhere, people getting hurt. We're walking around with guns on our hips all the time. So if you get a chance to let your hair down, do a little bit of dancing, even if you suck at it.
Major Frank is strict, and he puts them through their paces.
That works. That works. Okay.
We want to leave here, transition in 2014. But as far as the Afghans doing this themselves, we're hoping, we're preparing them. We don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now.
One man who welcomed the American presence is Mr. Afghanistan, Shakrullah Helmandi, a powerhouse of Afghan muscle. He and his friends idolize the heroes of American bodybuilding.
People are fed up with fighting and they want to enjoy sport. Sport gives you peace of mind. This is progress.
He's from Helmand province, where so many British soldiers have died fighting the Taliban. For some reason, Helmand is a stronghold of bodybuilding. They produce several champions. While the sport was tolerated by the Taliban, they imposed many restrictions. Shorts were banned and tracksuits were compulsory. When Mr. Afghanistan won his second national bodybuilding title earlier this year, the carefree scenes of delight among his fans were a sign of how much things have changed. Skimpy trunks and body lube were very much on display.
The guys from Kabul are really keen to have nice bodies. They're not doing it for the girls. After all, we're all Muslims. We want to be good champions.
Winning such competitions do give men status in Afghan society, even though the prizes are hardly glittering. Shakrullah won a polyester tracksuit and a plastic trophy. Kabul Zoo has survived the Soviet invasion, Taliban rule, as well as the recent invasion by the US and their allies. But these days, the institution is looking a bit down in the mouth. Visitors grumble about the state of the zoo, as well as their own corrupt government.
Things have changed a lot in the last 10 years in Kabul, no? You can say, but government is not really doing something for the people. They're just pocketing everything in their own, you know what I mean, everything putting in their own pocket. People, they're very hopeless in Afghanistan.
For the Taliban, this must be like music to their ears.
Do you feel that you've done enough to secure the freedom here, that when the Americans leave and the Brits leave, which is going to be happening?
I think the Afghans are getting the capacity to protect themselves and their society, but there's fractions in the society that want to go back to the way it was.
One of the more surreal aspects of life in Kabul is this. You can get daily text messages from the Taliban if you're on their list. A message here says they've just killed a bunch of American spies, as they say, and then it's followed up the next day with another one wishing people well on the religious holiday. Across the other side of Kabul, the Allied command is locked away in its heavily fortified headquarters. Beyond the blast walls and watchtowers, it's all frenetic activity. But to what end? Still they pedal, keeping fit to fight the boredom and the Taliban.
Once a month, we allow a lot of Afghan ladies to come in here, and they set up where they create their own handicrafts, jewelry and cloth items, rugs and things, and sell them to the military assigned here. It's really nice, helps put some money in their pocket, and at the same time allows all of us to get some really nice handicrafts here from Afghanistan, without having to venture outside the wall.
Outside the compound walls, the festival of Eid is underway. It marks the end of the holy month of Ramadan. Smartly dressed little boys in the well-to-do parts of town brandish their Eid gifts. A boy collecting trash can only look on in awe. In the hills above the city, this is the real Eid spectacular, a kite-running competition. Competitors entangle their kite lines, dueling in mid-air, trying to cut their opponents out of the sky. Imagine my surprise when I stumbled across a family who'd come all the way from Harrow in London.
What do you feel about the images that are portrayed of Afghanistan?
I think they're always showing in the TV and news and everything. They're always showing the bad things and the fight and everything in Afghanistan. They're never showing to people his life is nice and beautiful. People always want to be peace in Afghanistan. Look at today in the Eid, there is people is all coming to fly the kite and everything is nice in here.
A family of exiles, they now feel safe enough to visit relatives here. A sign, perhaps, of how much has changed in the past decade.
They have some awesome German mueslis over there, so.
I bet there's rich folks eating in a fancy dining car. They're probably drinking coffee and smoking big cigars. Well, I know
These days, they even have a posh supermarket chain in Kabul. Finest is where wealthy Afghans and expats come to shop.
Is there a concern that maybe a parallel world might develop where you have foreigners and maybe some wealthy Afghans living in one kind of community and other Afghans living in another?
Oh, it already has developed. It's that's an old phenomenon, so I think it exists from the beginning on, and it's getting more and more separated as the security rules get stricter.
Earlier this year, a branch of this supermarket was targeted by a Taliban suicide bomber, killing 8 people.
It becomes increasingly difficult compared to like 3 years ago. Sometimes you're not even allowed to go to the supermarket anymore, which is why it's so empty, even on Fridays.
At the end of my trip, Mr. Afghanistan asked to have a quiet word. It turns out the country's best-known muscle man is scared. He says he's terrified the Taliban may come back.
The Taliban are very much against me. I've received several threats already. I'm really worried.
What do you think they might do?
I will definitely be punished and put in prison.
As the Allies prepare to withdraw, many here wonder what kind of Kabul will be left behind. The fear of the Taliban is always present, hovering around the city. As the unreal world of foreign occupation is dismantled, and the troops leave, some feel the bubble will burst and the Talibs will swoop back in.